Hello everyone. This is going to be my first video on Swift. I'm going to probably go over, I will go over like orientation, the process for it all, along with what it's like when you first get on with Swift, and then I'll also compare both OTR and regional. I did, like right now I'm on OTR, and I started with regional in October of last year, so October of 2023, and I just recently switched to OTR because of some family related things going on, and I'd like to get home to multiple different family members instead of just to like my own residence. So anyway, just going to go over all of those things and then I'll make a totally separate video on the process for owner operator, because right now I'm in the process of that. So I could give a two-part, I'd say, like a two-part video on that. The first one will go over like the process up till when you get your truck selection, and then the second part will be truck selection up until when you actually get your truck. I'm hoping to get my truck by mid of this month, so probably more closer to later, like around the 20th perhaps, because my home time will be the 13th to the 17th because I'm moving from one apartment to the next. Same complex, just across the parking lot pretty much. So anyway, orientation. Honestly, with my first recruiter, it wasn't the greatest process, but that's just because of the recruiter. My second recruiter was fantastic. Her name's Heather. I'm not going to say the first recruiter's name. I've already complained about her. But anyway, my first recruiter, it was, to say it lightly, really cumbersome, let's just say. So she was supposed to do all of like my experience verification and this and that, and I've had issues with companies in the past not hiring out of my area. So when I started trucking, I lived in Wisconsin, like central Wisconsin, around the Madison area. It was not hard to get trucking, getting to home time, getting loads. It was pretty easy. Once I moved up to the Upper Peninsula, more particularly the Keweenaw Bay, which is really, really high up there, it got really hard. So I was with Werner, and I was with them for like 4 months, 3 or 4 months or so. And then, like, that's my second trucking company anyway. I moved in the process of that time. The account I was on was not offered in the area, and they had no openings for another account. So with that, it made it a little bit difficult because I had that trucking company. Then I went to another one called Rehire. Well, with Rehire, they said, oh yeah, you could park up there, you could this, you could that. Then I get to orientation, they keep on telling me, oh yeah, you could park up there, it shouldn't be an issue. We have warehouses opening up there, we'll get freight for you. Well, they declined that 2 days, literally 2 days into driving with them. So I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. So then they're like, well, what if we give you 7 days on, 7 days off? I'm like, I don't want to work half the year, so no thank you. So I moved on like around a month in. Took like a little hiatus from trucking, everything like that. But anyway, that just kind of puts a little morale into the story due to the fact that there's companies that wouldn't take me because I had like 3 companies, 2 of which were in a short time span, and it wasn't because I just like changing jobs or anything. It was more to do with my area and where I lived. So it made it a little bit complicated for the recruiter to get that area, or get that experience, shall I say, verified. Well, she tried to verify it. She only got 2 months. By that point, I was trucking since 2021. I was with CR England for a while, close to a year. And then, obviously, those companies, actually, it was probably more like, I would say 6 months with CR England. The only reason I left is because I was running like 2,700, 3,000 miles a week, and I was only taking home like $700, maybe $800 at best, and it was only around 40 cents per mile in 2021, which wasn't that good. So I left because of that, went to Werner, was getting paid 77 cents per mile, but it was on a dollar tree account. Wasn't that bad, besides like the staffing issues. So anyway, I had experience. I had a decent bit of experience, but they only verified 2 months. So because of that, I had to go with a mentor, and I tried verifying my own experience because she didn't, and I gave it to them. I told them this is the experience. I had the girl that works at Werner and someone at CR England reach out to say, like, this is the times he worked. I tried getting pay stubs, but for CR England, it's been so long, and for it's a completely different bank account now. And for Werner, I also had a different bank account again, and that one has since been closed. So both of those had the same issue. So I couldn't get pay stubs or anything, and I no longer had access to the applications, like the toolbox for CR England, and I forget what Werner calls theirs, just their app as well. So I couldn't use that, so I just tried to get the verifications department to do it. They got it. They acknowledged that they got it, but my recruiter did not push it through. And even though they got it, they still only verified. Actually, I think they bumped it up to 4 months, which doesn't make any sense because the shortest time I was with the company was 1 because of the location issue, and then the next shortest would be 4 months, and then 6 months. Just, yeah. So anyway, I should have had a lot more experience. So that process got a little bit hard, but orientation itself was really simple. It was a 2-day, the first time I did it. The second time, it was just a rehire process. And the reason I left is because of the family issues. So it was more like a leave of absence, but I got, because it's over 30 days, it had to be like an actual, like, extended. So like I had to actually get taken off of payroll and everything like that. So then I had to go through rehiring. Anyway, so the first day is just going over slides a little bit. And then you go to the drug test, and then you go to get the physical at the same place you get the drug test. But because mine was in Menasha, it was at like a chiropractor, but they have like a actual person come in to do the actual physical for you, and then the drug testing. So I mean, it was pretty simple. That got my medical certificate, even though I had one already. They make you do a new one. Then my drug test cleared by, it went in Monday. So technically the drug test comes in Tuesday, like to the lab. So then it's Tuesday, Wednesday, and then it was Thursday that my actual drug test came in with my hair follicle and everything. Then the second day, actually, like at the very beginning of orientation, it's actual like tests that you do. Essentially, it's basically English. If you know English, it shouldn't be too hard. It was actually pretty simple. So then you just do everything that I explained then. Second day, you come from the motel because they pay for a motel for the time you're there. And I would recommend signing up for their points program, because you get points for the days you stay if Swift pays for it under your email. So give them the email that Swift has, and you'll get your points pretty much. So anyway, the second day, you go over the remainder of the slides. You didn't really go over much the first day, at least I didn't. And then by the end of that day, if you go with a mentor, you go with a mentor. It could take a day or two to get assigned. I was assigned instantly, which was annoying because I shouldn't have had to, but oh well, life goes on. It's more learning, so it's fine by me. So then once you go with a mentor, it depends on how much experience you have. It could be anywhere between 3 days or 4 weeks, or for some people even more. Then at the end of the mentorship, like once you're done with the mentor, you do a road test. And if you're experienced, you do this road test first, the very first day. It's the very first thing you do, which is actually what I did the first day I got there, because they brought me in as experienced and then they blundered my experience. So yeah, anyway, so I got that done 2 times by the same person, so it was pretty easy. The second time, he's like, I already know how you drive phenomenally, you back phenomenally, so I'm honestly not even going to test you on this one. I'm just going to put down the same score you had last time. I did that. We just pretty much talked to each other as we literally went like 2 blocks. We didn't even really go that much, because he's like, I'm not even going to take you on the interstate or anything like that, because I already did it, because he remembered me. So yeah, you do that. And then they assign you a truck. The first time they assigned me a loaner. I got a 2019 Freightliner Cascadia. It was white. It was actually governed at 70 miles an hour too, because it, I guess, was an old owner-op truck. But what's odd about that is owner-op trucks are usually 70 on the pedal and 68 on cruise. However, this truck was flip-flop. It was 70 on cruise, 68 on the pedal, which, fine by me. A lot faster than everyone else is going. So anyway, then you get your truck, and essentially it ends there. However, what is nice about the truck is the second time I did it, which, let me get into the second time. Let's get into the end of the second time though, because it's on that same topic. Anyway, the second time, there were multiple trucks available actually. So because of that, I got to select between 3 trucks, and then there was a 4th truck too, but that was a one-way swap, which means you take it down to Memphis, at least for me, because that was the closest place that has brand new trucks that come in. But the problem is they didn't have any trucks available, so I would have to go down there, get with another dude or a girl, I don't know, come back to the Menasha yard terminal, and then I would get my truck then, but they would give me $250 for taking the truck down and essentially doing them a favor. Well, I didn't want to do it that way, because I didn't know how long it would take for me to get back up, like to get someone assigned to me to take me back up. And then on top of that, didn't know how long it would take to get a load back up, if it would be multiple loads. So I didn't want to do teaming that much. I've already did enough teaming with a mentor, because my first time ever with CR England, it was 4 weeks with 3 people in a truck. It was atrocious. I felt like I was going to die, because the other mentees did not know how to drive, and I did not feel comfortable, and I slept on the 3rd bunk, which would be above the passenger and driver seat. Wasn't fun. Then there's this bunk here, and that was for the first guy. I eventually swapped there, but then the other dude was bigger than me, and he didn't fit on the bunk above the driver and passenger seat, so we ended up switching. He only lasted 2 days though, because after he drove 50 miles, he's like, this is the most I ever drove, and he already was sleeping almost. So he didn't last long. Anyway, I just got tired of being with other people on a truck. And sorry if I'm using my hands too much. It's kind of a habit for me when I'm talking. Anyway, I just didn't want to do that. It was too much time on a truck with another person, too much unknown for only $250. I didn't want to do it. I would have got team pay, so I would have got the miles of the whole truck, both of us, but it would be split, and it would probably end up being less because I could drive from Menasha to Memphis essentially one day. I probably wouldn't, no, probably a little over a day, I think, because I think it's like, it might be 700 miles. I forget exactly. Either a day or a day and a quarter. So, I mean, it would have been essentially the same. I would have been paid more. So, yeah, I mean, you get your truck, and it makes it nice and easy if the terminal you're at has the trucks. But then orientation number 2 was actually pretty easy. So I left because of I had my grandpa die, and then also my brother's dad was murdered. So, I mean, I kind of took time off, and it was like 2 months, maybe 2.5. Come back, didn't have to do the physical again because I already got it through them, and I came back within 3 months because that's the requirement, is within 90 days. Then I do the physical, and I don't do the physical, I do the drug test, and there's no orientation, really, honestly. It's like owner-op orientation. You just do a drug test. That's literally all you do. If you have an active physical for owner-op, you don't have to take another physical. All you have to do is a drug test, unless you're a company driver switching to owner-op. Then you don't have to do a drug test or a physical or anything. Anyway, it was pretty easy. The only issue is I went on a Wednesday. So they got my drug test on a Thursday because it's overnight shipping. And it didn't come back until Monday. So because I live 4 hours away from the terminal, 4 hours north from Menasha, I had to come in on Tuesday. So I got my truck on Tuesday. This one is a 2023 Freightliner Cascadia. I was wanting a Kenworth T680, as most drivers do, at least most experienced drivers, I guess, because most drivers, at least that I've seen with companies like Freightliner or International, if they're brand new, because that's what they're used to, that's what they trained on usually, that's what they did their pre-trips on, that's just what they're comfortable with, so that's what they want to stay with. And then also, sometimes they don't like the turning radius of the T680 because it's not quite as good. But anyway, yeah, the second day of orientation was literally just a drug test. I stayed at the motel for a day. I was going to stay until Friday, but I didn't really want to, just in case. Didn't come in until Monday, and thankfully I left. But what sucked about the drug test then was I had to do like 2 drug tests, obviously, but like 2 hours. It was like an hour per, because the girl never did it before. So like I kind of had to walk her through it a little bit because I already did it before. So I knew the labs it was going to, and I knew exactly how the hair follicle would go. She didn't even know how to do a hair follicle at first. I had to correct her so that I didn't have to do that later. And then I had to show her how to like cut it, and then how much to take. And I made sure she took more than she should have, way more than she should have. Instead of like 50 strands, she left a bald spot on the back of my head, type of thing. But I'd rather that than be like, oh, there wasn't enough hair, so you have to come back in, and that's going to take another 2 or 3 days. So I didn't want to do that. So it took a little longer than it should. More so than the first time, because the first time the girl who did the physical did it for me, and she did it before multiple times. So anyway, that's pretty much how orientation went. outside of that, I'm going to actually go over the owner op part one, which is going to just be until truck selection because that's the point I'm at right now. And then part two will be after that, anything from there and beyond. And then I could also go over pay and what I make per mile, and what I made per mile when I was on regional. So I could compare OTR versus regional. And I'll literally make those videos right after this one. So yeah, thank you for watching.